Hey everyone, Ryan with thehomesteadconsultant.com and lovefarmtn.com. Today I'm doing a video about my ongoing effort to increase the resilience of my neighborhood. These are my actual neighbors, my next door, the closest thing I have to next door neighbors. They've seen what I've been doing on my property with chickens and a garden and see how simple it is and how little work it's taking. So they asked if I could help them set up a chicken coop and run so that they could get their own eggs. One of my neighbors is a bit timid with chickens. She feels uncomfortable with them and thinks they have weird beady eyes and isn't totally comfortable with them. So I designed an entire coop and run so that she needs to have almost no physical interaction with the chickens on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to go through how I did that and how I made it as simple as possible, largely using readily available materials, and I'll show you what that looks like. A lot of it is just parts and pieces that I pulled out of my own shed. So let's get to it. They had this little garage slash shed. It's on a cement foundation, which is great, so I had a place to start with a frame inside, so I just had to add a bit to it. But it's way too small for a car or for really anything other than a lawnmower and some tools. So it's still big enough with the system inside, which I'll show you in a minute, to fit a lawnmower and tools and things in there. But now it has space for about 10 plus chickens. This is the outside run. It's about 30 by 12, I believe. So I just put it up with T-posts and this 2-inch welded wire fence. So I'm not sure if you can see that real well on the video, but it's 2 inches across by 4 inches tall. And this specific one is 5 feet tall. Sometimes I like to do 6, depending on what I think the predator pressure might be for the area. And I just basically put those on regular T-posts. It's not stretched especially tight because you can't with this welded wire. But and so I didn't even need like angle braces on the corner posts or to do wood or cemented corner posts. So it's pretty simple. The spacing's fairly wide on the posts. You can see there's not really a whole lot there. The way that it was attached to the building is I used connections on the back side of this, and then I screwed it into the building in several places. So that should keep it nice and tight, and I don't expect them to have any issues with that coming undone from the building. And then on this side, I put another 2x4 right there. And that 2x4 is then what I connected the gate to. The gate is just several 2x4s cut into lengths with angle braces. And then I used a true staple from a staple gun. So these are like an inch-long staple as opposed to the little, click staplers that you can use. These are a pneumatic staple. You can also get a battery-powered version, but that closes intentionally against the back side of the T-post here. And what I can actually do is clip you can get these hard black rubber bungees, and you can clip it right there. And if you pull that around and connect it over here, that actually keeps that gate from being able to be pushed open. And then obviously it's butted up against this T-post, so it can't come past that. And I've found that to be very effective for keeping predators out of my coop. All right, the next section is inside here. So here's the inside. It's a little bit dark. We're gonna have to figure out a way to bring light into the space. Potentially a window or something eventually, but for right now it's fine. We've got a feeder here. This is a feeder I've developed over time that's fairly simple. Basically it's a 4-inch, these are specifically a drainage pipe for basically for downspouts to drain water through your yard. So it's a thinner wall and it's easier to work with. And then a 90-degree turn at the bottom, and then I leave it ends up being about a 10-inch piece out that side, and then the first square there, which is about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, is usually about 3 to 4 inches from the edge here of this 90. And the reason for that is, as the food, you fill the food up to here and then it runs down, But it kind of runs, it'll get to the end of this, but it stays close to the bottom. So the chickens actually have to stick their heads in to eat the food. If you're not familiar with chickens wasting food, what they do if they had free access to it is they'd take it and they'd flip it out and they'd just dig for what they want, and they'd leave a lot of the minerals and other fines that you would see in that system. They'll leave it on the ground and make a mess out of it. By doing this, they don't really have a space to flip the food out, and they'll waste a lot less. And because the food stays far enough below, so the food stays about here all the way across, as opposed to filling all the way to the top. So it basically keeps them from being able to waste that because they have to stick their head in to get to it. You'll see that's our automatic door, which I'll go back out and show you a little bit more of in a minute here. But it opens and closes based on sunlight, and it's run off of solar because we don't have power out to this building. The inside, what I did is I just basically built a stud wall. Spacing is on, I believe, 24 inches rather than the standard 16, because there's no reason to space it closer than that. Eventually I'm going to put some stoppers along the bottom, basically a piece of like 2x6 or 2x8 along there that will keep them from flinging out the wood chips that will eventually be put inside of here. And then there's a couple ways of fastening this welded wire. I used what's called pipe strap and screws. That should hold it extremely securely. And then in kind of the in-between posts or studs, I use the staples, those long 1-inch staples again. Again, with the door, I put angle braces like I did on the gate outside, and then just a simple latch here. And this whole area on the back side is going to be closed in, or, you know, we'll have the door that closes and locks. So large predators won't be able to get in here. It is possible for snakes or something to get in because there are a couple of spots that are big enough for that, but I'm not too worried about those. And then, so one of the features here is that you can feed from this side without having to interact with the chickens if you don't want to. And then I'm going to have a 5-gallon bucket sitting here right next to these welded wire. And since the chickens can stick their heads through the welded wire, they can get to the water on the outside of their coop, but not make a mess out of the water on the inside portion of the coop. So I'll have a 5-gallon bucket sitting here with these, a couple of these in it. And basically the chickens have to stick their beak in and they push against there. I've used these for years and been very happy with them, especially for egg layers. So they only get the water that they need or want. They're not going to stick their beak in and just push it and let it run over. So it really reduces both waste of water and the amount of water that gets on the floor, which is a typical reason for the smell in a chicken coop. So these will be on the outside. The water can be filled and replaced from the outside of the coop. And then also eggs can be had from the outside of the coop. So this is actually a mobile home window latch that I had sitting around. It's hard to do with one hand because you're supposed to pull. Excuse the camera angle. All right, so I push that, pull it open, and I can get into the nesting boxes to pick eggs. These are nesting pads. They're washable and reusable. They were sent to me from roosties.co or Roosties on Amazon. Anyways, they're nicer than some of the other nesting material because they can't be kicked out by the hens, which I prefer. So eggs, watering, food can all be done from outside without having to interact with the chickens. The door itself opens and closes based on light measurements outside. So I'm going to show you that here in a minute. So here is the door from the outside. There's a roll-up piece that comes down and covers that. So at night, the chickens will not only be inside of a building, they'll also be inside of a fence, and there's another neighbor's fence outside of that. So it's 2 fences and then this chicken door. So it should avoid pretty much any predators that would come this way. should be foiled by one of the 3 layers before they get to the chickens. This door is run off of a little tiny solar panel there that charges up a battery inside of the door itself. So there's a lithium ion battery inside the door. So that battery seems to last for many up and down cycles. So if you have a few days of clouds or other issues, this door still works. It also comes with a little charger. So if you have one of those charging packs that you'd use for a phone, you can come out and actually charge the unit up with that. So far I'm really happy with these doors. We will see over time how well that holds up and works with the entire system. I made the gate large enough so that you can get in and out with a wheelbarrow or even with one of these trailers on the back of a garden tractor. So if you push that the rest of the way, you'd have enough space to get in here. I generally recommend people fill the run up with wood chips, which again, having a trailer like that is really nice because you can just fill that with wood chips, back it in here and just dump it. There was a lot more wood, or many more logs in here that were removed, but these were all breaking down so much that I figured I'd leave them in here for the bugs and things that the chickens can scratch out of them. So that is my basic overview of a simple chicken coop and run. This one is designed for between 5 to 10 chickens. It could accommodate more, but this run space is a little bit small if you wanted more than 10 chickens. But putting the wood chips, deep wood chips in here will make a much more pleasant environment for them, because they will scratch this down to bare soil, and there won't be any greenery in here. So adding wood chips really helps, and it also keeps things from running off. So once this is bare soil, if you put wood chips on top of it, the soil won't run downhill into the neighbor's property as readily. So I hope that inspires you. Feel free to throw some questions in the comments. I will absolutely respond to them. And if you have questions, I will try to help you through them. If you want an actual consultation, if you want me to come out to your property, if you're in the Tennessee area, Southern Kentucky, Central Tennessee, and within a couple of hours surrounding that Central Tennessee or Middle Tennessee, I'd be happy to come out and help you. I also do designs and full system designs based on your property and your resources and time and skill. So that's something that I can help people with as well. So if you need any of that, please feel free to reach out. Find my information on thehomesteadconsultant.com. I've got all my contact information there. I'm easy to get a hold of. Thank you for watching, and tell me what you think of the system.